Colton Parayko is out for the rest of the season.
Hey, this is Brayden Shen. Subscribe to Lock On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Blues. On today's episode, unfortunately, I do have to talk about the fact that Colton Parayko is set to be out for the next 6 weeks, which does take us to the end of the regular season. Also, it is trade deadline eve. I kind of waited to film this episode at nighttime, so that way if anything happened, I would be able to record it tonight. As I said, once something does happen, if anything happens, you will be the first to know here in Locked On Blues. And finally, the Blues did have a great shootout win last night over the Kings. It was a very late game. I might have fell asleep during overtime, and I woke up to see that the Blues won the shootout. So I was really happy with that. We do have a lot to talk about today. And before I do so, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Unfortunately, news came out today about Colton Parayko, at least 6 weeks due to a knee injury. And I'm going to be very blunt and very honest with you. While, yes, it says 6 weeks, that does mean the rest of the NHL season. I believe that Parayko has been the best defenseman all season on the Blues, and that's without a doubt. I told you some great statistics that Parayko had as well. And this is the thing. Oh, there is an ambulance. I'm going to pause. Anyways, it was announced today that he will go under a scope on his left knee and he will be reevaluated in 6 weeks. This season, he had a career high with 15 goals and matching his career best with 35 points in 62 games. He leads all of the skaters on the team in average ice time with about 23 minutes and 51 seconds. He has a +8 rating, and now Nick Leddy's going to probably take on a bigger role, and Tyler Tucker will be back into the lineup after spending the last 6 games as a healthy scratch. Today, some players on the Blues did talk about the impact of losing Parayko when one of them was defenseman Cam Fowler, and he said that this was a huge loss due to how great of a player and how big of an asset he is on defense. And I think that losing Colton Parayko now, it really killed my hope of them making it to the playoffs. The Blues defense isn't anything without Colton Parayko, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any of the other players, not to Letty, not to Justin Falk, not to, Fowler, Suter, Tucker. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, Broberg even, but at the end of the day, Colton Parayko is the best defenseman on the St. Louis Blues, and you cannot tell me that's not true. With Parayko now being out, there becomes an issue. An equivalence in the beginning of the season when Robert Thomas was said to be out for 4 to 6 weeks and it only ended up being 4 weeks, thankfully. It was a huge loss because Robert Thomas is the Blues' best forward and Colton Parayko is the Blues' best defenseman. It's like saying Jordan Binnington is out because he is the best goalie. Now, I know there was only 2, really, but still, you get the point. I have had mixed reactions about this. A part of me is thinking, well, maybe, he'll get healthy and he'll be good to go by the beginning of next season. And then there's a part of me that says, what if he's not ready then? Then what? And I think that there is one of those factors of the reality of what would be the St. Louis Blues without Colton Parayko. And I hate to say it, but that's just how I'm thinking. And I know that's a very negative way to think. And I want him to recover. I want him to get healthy first and foremost for him and his family. I just want him to be healthy. Take hockey aside. I care about every player's health in the NHL. I do. I may not like them, but I want every player to be healthy. I love Colton Parayko, so therefore I still want him to be healthy. Another thing that you have to think about is that Parayko is 31. And I think he still has time left in the NHL. I wouldn't hang up his skates yet. But it reminds me a lot, not in a similar sense of the injuries, but of the Torrey Krug situation. Because when Torrey Krug got injured and he couldn't play for this season, essentially Scott Perunovich was the guy that was going to mimic him the most in a way. And then obviously the Blues traded him to the Islanders. So it just makes me wonder, do the Blues even have a player in mind that could fill the role of Colton Parayko? Or will it just be Nick Leddy taking on a bigger role? And that's the problem. And that's where I'm struggling. And that's why, and I'm going to talk about this in my next segment with the trade deadline, why I'm a little surprised the Blues aren't doing anything right now. We're less than 24 hours away, mind you, and nothing has happened. If anything happens in this episode, if you see me looking down at my phone, it is because I have all the NHL National Insiders tweet notifications on. So that way I will be able to see if anything happens. So no, I'm not being rude. I'm just seeing things go down and nothing involving us here in St. Louis. But yes, when your best defenseman is out for the rest of the season, and let's face it, I'm not thinking playoffs at this point. It just kind of seems like, I'm not saying to tank, but I'm just saying maybe give some of the younger guys in Springfield a chance to come up here and play in the NHL. I don't know. Or maybe this team will surprise me and they will rally. And I want to be that kind of positive. But even if Parayko is reevaluated in 6 weeks, right? And somehow the Blues do make it to the playoffs, it doesn't guarantee that he will be good to go. And I think that's the misconception that people have when they see statements like that. Oh, he'll be out for 6 weeks. Well, he could be out longer, right? For Robert Thomas, he wasn't out as long as they said that he would be. But again, it was a different type of injury than Parayko has, and stuff with the knee. I don't know much about knee injuries because they freak me out, but I know that they're very serious. Lots of ligaments. I don't want to gross anybody out. I hate medical talk, but it is the reality. And it's very unfortunate. I was not expecting that news today. I really wasn't. But this is where we're at right now. And it's not a good situation at all. And frankly, I think this is a very bad situation for the Blues. And I can't really understand how this defense can be as, and I take this lightly, dominant without Parayko. I mean, he's played here for 10 seasons, right? He's been a vital part to this team. And now I kind of feel like without him, it's just going to take a big hit. But again, I'm going to try to be somewhat optimistic that the guys somehow rally because that's always the best thing that could happen, right? It just is very, very unfortunate. And it sucks because they're one back of the second and final wild card spot after their win against LA yesterday. So I think that makes it even more frustrating. And I'm going to talk about that LA game, mind you. But there's just like a whole sense of frustration with the fact that this team came back from the break so dominant. He played in the Four Nations face-off and was absolutely fantastic. I have to tell you, he really stood out for Team Canada. And now this happens. I can't say I'm surprised. I feel like the Blues have just had some bad luck lately with, player injuries. And that's any team in the NHL. You're 60-something games into the season. There's going to be injuries that are bound to happen. And there's so many other teams that are dealing with injuries too. But obviously, when it's your best defenseman, it sucks. When your best forward got injured in the beginning of the season, it sucks. And this is what I don't want. I don't want, let's go say Parayko comes back at the beginning of next season and he doesn't look as good because he's still working through, recovery. Do not give him hate or anything like that. I'm going to do some research as to what this procedure is. Again, I don't like medical stuff, but I am curious because it does seem very serious. So the way I'm going to end this segment before I talk to you about trade deadline eve is I send my best wishes out to Colton Parayko and the Parayko family, and hoping for a very speedy and healthy recovery for Mr. Colton Parayko. All right, coming up next, I'm going to talk about the trade deadline eve and a great win last night. But first, let's talk about FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on fourth quarter comebacks, you can still stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3. I never feel like I miss my chance. Plus, the app, it's easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. It is trade deadline eve, and a lot can go down today, and a lot has been going down today. I have to tell you, I have been very, very, very on edge with what's happening. And I'm going to tell you about the trade tracker. Yes, I do a trade tracking app. The NHL has it because a lot happened today on March 6th. But last night, a big move happened. Yes, a Schenn was traded. I kind of talked about this in yesterday's episode because the news just broke. But Luke Schenn, who was on the Nashville Predators, who the Blues were going to see, was then traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins. So one of the Schenns was traded. All right, let's go talk about what happened today. The Florida Panthers acquired forward Nico Strum and a 7th-round pick in the 2027 NHL draft from the San Jose Sharks for a 4th-round pick in the 2026 NHL draft. The Winnipeg Jets acquired goalie Chris Driedger from the Florida Panthers for goalie. I never heard Capo Konanen. Like, it's all these confusing names. The Vegas Golden Knights acquired again. I'm saying again, but Riley Smith. He was one of the original misfits from the New York Rangers for forward Brendan Brisson and a 3rd-round pick in the 2025 NHL draft. So, yes, Smith comes back home to Vegas. And no, Mark Stone is not on LTIR yet. So, I know, huge, huge news. The New York Rangers acquired defenseman Carson Soucy from the Vancouver Canucks for a 3rd-round pick in the 2025 draft. So that has been going on today. The latest news just happened, by the way, about 10 minutes ago. Right now, it is trade deadline eve, and I don't know what the Blues are going to do. I really don't. It is weird. Today is a really weird day. I feel like the Blues could potentially do something, right? But I'm not too sure yet. I don't know if the Blues are going to do anything at all, honestly. But I'm seeing people say trade Binnington. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see that at all. But the St. Louis Blues are not even no one's talking about them. No one's even bringing them up. And that's what concerns me, is the fact that nobody is mentioning the St. Louis Blues. And I don't know. This is what, by the way, breaking news. I'm sorry. It's not about a trade. I don't want to scare anybody. A statement just came out from Jim Montgomery on Colton Parayko. So I'm going to read it to you now. We're not going to replace him. That being said, the feeling in our room right now, it just continues to build. Being able to win a game on the road in LA and how we did it. They're continuing to build the trust, respect, care, and love that's building within our group. If you would have asked me a month ago, I'd say, I don't know how we can recover, but we're going to push through, and it's going to be the next man up mentally. You have to have. We have a lot of confidence in our D core to share the minutes that Parayko gave us. So no, it does not sound like at all that Colton Parayko will be replaced by anybody in the trade deadline. Speaking of moves today, the St. Louis Blues did agree to terms on a 2-year, 2-way contract with goaltender Colton Ellis. I'm a big fan of Ellis, as I mentioned prior. The contract is worth $775,000, and that's NHL, and then AHL, it is $175,000 in the 2025-2026 season. He was originally drafted by the Blues in 2019 in the 3rd round at 93rd overall. This season, he made 31 appearances for the Springfield Thunderbirds, go T-Birds, and shares 3rd in the AHL overall with 19 wins. He is 19-7-3 this season and ranks 2nd with a .926 save percentage and ranks 11th with a little under 2.5 goal against average. Ellis has dressed in 53 career AHL regular season games with a record of 27, 19, and 8. And I'm really happy for him. And I feel like that is a good move that the Blues organization did make to just ensure that he will be here. As I said, I'm a big fan of Colton Ellis, and I'm a big fan of AHL hockey. So when I do watch the T-Birds, I have enjoyed what he brings to the team. Again, 24. It is still relatively young for goalies, right? I say this all the time, but that is the reality of it. The Blues just put out a tweet, and I thought it was about a trade. It is not about a trade. Oh my goodness. This is how the trade deadline is coming to me. It just freaks me out so much right now at the trade deadline, and if the Blues are going to do anything at all. But here's the next clickbait, right? Braden Shen. This is the issue. Well, it's not an issue. Luke Shen got traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins, as I mentioned. And people are making up rumors. I don't want to say speculating because nothing is even like out there to speculate on, that the two brothers would end up together again. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's going to happen, and I'm going to shut that down. I feel like they already played together in Philadelphia, and I just don't see that really being anything that is going to happen. It just wouldn't make any sense to me at all. So I'm just going to say, for the sake of it, no. It's a little weird, I guess, in a way, that people are just kind of making things up, but I understand it because at the end of the day, like, it gets people clicks, whatever. People are then talking about Jordan Kyrou. And I don't think that's going to happen. Some of the teams, the Anaheim Ducks, Buffalo, Carolina, Chicago, and New Jersey. I know New Jersey has been a team that a lot of people are kind of linking players to in general. I just don't see that happening, especially with Jordan Kyrou's contract. Again, I'm not going to say that it's not going to happen. I just don't see the Blues really being in that situation. And here's it. Ryan Suter, now, he said that if he got his wife's blessing, he's open to playing another season, and he really likes his time in St. Louis, and he loves Braden Shen's leadership. There's always a possibility that he might, sign an extension with the Blues for a year, and I would not be upset about that. I think Suits gave everything and more so far this season. He stepped up big time as it was, and I would not be upset about that. So if the Blues do that, I won't be upset. I really would not be. It's not like they're going to give him like this insane contract, right? But that's basically all I have. I mean, it sucks that there's not enough rumors, right? We're not the Maple Leafs over here or the Rangers or the Avalanche. We're not an exciting team during this trade deadline, which is fine with me. even if they stand pat, that's fine with me. But I do want to talk to you about last night, because last night's win over the LA Kings was so exciting. It really was. It was a great 3-2 shootout win over the Los Angeles Kings. And I have to tell you, I did fall asleep during overtime. Listen, I was tired. I'm watching this game, and again, I'm 1 hour ahead of Central. So for me, the game began at 10:30. And, the games don't begin on time. And by the time it went to like overtime, I just remember it being like 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m. I don't know, I was like half awake. And I was like, yep, this is it for me. I'm going to wake up and it's going to either be a W or an L, but we're getting a point, babe. I love how I'm saying we, like I'm a part of this team, but in a way, I do feel like I kind of contributed to the win because I don't know. Anyways, let's just talk about it. So towards the end of the first frame, oh man, this makes me so sad. Colton Parayko gave a great feed. It was a beautiful feed to Jake Neighbors, who was able to secure his 16th goal of the season. Again, I thought today's episode was going to be so different, right? But it was truly such a great feed, and this was Parayko's 20th and final assist of the season. That sucks. Yeah. Yep. About 30 seconds later, LA scores and ties it 1-1. We head to the second frame, and by the way, Benner was in net, and I thought he did a great job. We head to the second frame, and LA scores around the halfway point of the game. But then the Blues go on the power play, and guess who scores on the power play? That is right. That is my favorite player, Robert Thomas, scoring his 17th goal of the game, assisted by Bushi and Cam Fowler. By the way, Bushi's 30th assist of the season. Third period, it was a lot of back and forth. Honestly, it sucked because I just wanted the game to end with the Blues win, obviously, but I was tired. Overtime, that's when I fell asleep. Nothing happened, and I could not keep myself to stay awake. Anyways, Benner stopped the first LA shot on goal, and then Jake Neighbors, he got a goal with a great wrister, so happy for him. Trevor Moore's shot was saved by Benner, and then Braden Shen's backhand, it was saved. Shenny does have a great backhand, but it happens. LA's goal goes in. It was Kevin Fila, and then Robert Thomas, my boy RT's season, he was able to score, and then that gave the Blues the dub. So yes, it is ironic. The two goals scored in the game were by Jake Neighbors and Robert Thomas, and the two goals scored in the shootout were by Jake Neighbors and Robert Thomas, giving the Blues a 3-2 victory over the LA Kings. So, friends, I said I was out yesterday. I said I was back in this morning. And then after Parayko's news, I said I was out. I am so back and forth. And I just want to say this team, no matter what happens, I think I'm even more proud of them this season than I was last season, because these boys are fighting hard and I can respect that. The Blues now have 66 points. The Canucks 67, the Flames 67. The Blues are 1 point out of a playoff spot. Yep, let that sink in. Here's the problem. Now the Blues are without their best defenseman within Colton Parayko. So let's maybe look at something different, right? Let's look at division. In the Central Division, because as I said, that is the toughest division, the Blues are in 5th. The Avalanche have 74 points. Obviously, they have that first wild card spot right now. And the Minnesota Wild are 10 points ahead, 76 points. So I don't think the Blues can catch up. So that is why I know that I haven't really talked about that lately, but that is why the focus is so hyper fixated on the second wild card spot, just because it seems like it's going to be a bit of a stretch. I mean, you're 8 points behind the Avalanche, and it's too big of a gap, I believe. But that's where the boys are at. So, yeah, it is very frustrating, disappointing. Tomorrow, the Blues do play the Ducks. I do believe that they have a good chance of winning this game. Then they're back in LA against the Kings. I know, so odd the schedule. And then they head to Pittsburgh to play the Penguins. And yes, that will be a Shen versus Shen game if Braden Shen doesn't get traded. And then they're going to be at Minnesota. And then they finally come home. And they host the Ducks, and then they go to Nashville. Yeah, I'm telling you, like, the whole season, but essentially, like, there's a lot of games that they're going to be playing within the Central Division. They have a couple Predators games, Avalanche. They host the Penguins again later. Oh, wait, it's going to be a double brother on brothers game. I need to put that on a tweet. It's going to be P.O. Joseph versus Matthew Joseph, and then it's going to be Luke Shen versus Braden Shen. My mind is blown. Wait. That's so cool. All right. Well, I'm going to go put out that tweet. Again, if anything happens, I will talk to you guys later. And like always, let's go Blues.